everybody, Doug Mystic Eye here. Getting ready to set up for our next playthrough of a game. We just wrapped up a nice long session of A Touch of Evil, and now I'm going to, I think, run into Darkest Night. One of my fellow gamers down in Australia, Daniel, asked me to do Zombicide Prison Outbreak, which I'm going to do next. Or either I got a couple things I want to squeeze in between that won't be as long as that, such as this. This game is a fully cooperative game, Darkest Night, for 1 to 4 players. And one of the interesting things about it is no matter how many players you have, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you'll always be running or maintaining 4 characters in the game. So in this video, I'm going to pick our characters, and I'm going to just kind of do a light overview of the game and the setup. This is the board, and over here we have all of the blights that come in the game. Now there's a bunch more that came out with some expansions, which, by the way, we'll be using. So we're going to have the base Darkest Night game. We're going to have the expansion with an inner light, as well as the expansion on Shifting Winds. Now there's a variant in a couple of these, like in On Shifting Winds, that I won't be using. I'm still going to be playing the basic game, but I will be using characters, blights, and quests, artifacts, map, and events from all the expansions. So just getting started, I'm going to set up the board very quickly. First, I think, you know what? I think first I'll pick our characters, and I'm going to do that at random. So I shuffled up the character cards, and I'm going to show you those when I turn. Now, on the back of each character card, because you're only going to have 4 characters total, is a summary of a turn, but we'll go through that in a little bit. So just splitting the deck up a little bit here. Let's see, shuffle it up some. We'll pick first from here. So the first one we got is the Scholar. Okay, I haven't played him yet. We'll see how he goes. And doing it randomly like this could end up giving us some trouble because we're not picking some complementary classes. But that's okay. So for our second one, I'm glad we got this one. I wanted that one. The Monk. And that's from one of the expansions. Okay. The Scholar is actually, I believe, from the base game. Anyway, let's keep going. We'll pick another one. The Wayfarer. That is another expansion character. Awesome. So far we're getting characters that people probably haven't played a lot of. I hope we don't have a big fighter in here, and that could be bad. And the Druid from the base game, which I love the Druid. Great character. Okay, so where does that leave us? We got the Druid, the Scholar. It's a very studied bunch. The Monk and the Wayfarer. What do we leave out? We left out the Shaman, the Acolyte, the Ranger, which would have been nice. I would have liked to try that one, actually. The Scout, the Wind Dancer, which is from one of the expansions, the Paragon, which is a Knight, the Crusader, the Wizard, Prince, Priest, Rogue, Knight, and Seer. So those are the ones we won't be playing with. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea how good these guys are going to play together. Based on the fact I'm a little concerned that there's not a major, well, I guess the Monk's a fighter type in his way, not a major fighter amongst them, and the Druid's actually kind of tough. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, I'm going to set them up, and we'll continue on, and I'll start to do an overview of the game. So we have our characters set up, and I'm just going to basically go over each one of them with you. We'll start here with the Druid. You can see that the top marker here, this one here is his Grace, and this bottom one is his Secrecy. As he fights, basically Grace is similar to life points, health, whatever you want to call it. And Secrecy is basically secrecy. It's exactly what it sounds like. So yeah, so basically those are the 2 stats that you use during the game, and if you take damage, you will take Grace, and if you are moving or not moving around the board, rather staying put or having encounters, it may reduce your Secrecy. In other words, the Necromancer, the evil villain, can find you easier. So that being said, let's get on with some of the abilities. Each character has 4 starting abilities. In this case, the base game ones are marked with that symbol right there. And the 3 that you choose 3 out of the 4, and the other one goes back into the rest of the Druid's deck. Each character has their own deck of abilities, which is pretty cool. So what I picked for the Druid was Animal Companion, just because this tactic is an ongoing one that allows you to fight with 2 dice, but you have to exhaust Exhaust meaning turning it sideways. If you fail in a fight, meaning your animal companion was taken out of the fight, and then you have to find a way to recharge that. Camouflage is another tactic. You don't have to do anything but roll for it. It's pretty nice. And then Visions allows you to exhaust after you draw an event card to discard it, so you can avoid the effect of an event card. Three pretty good starting abilities. So the Scholar here, and you notice that he's got a 5 grace and a 6 secrecy. That's pretty good. A lot of them start off similar. The Scholar has a 4 grace and a 6 secrecy, and the abilities that I took for him were Find Weakness, fight with 1 fight dice, but before rolling, pick 1 dice and add 1 to the result. So, yeah, that could be good. And that's also just tactics, so it's ongoing. Foresight allows him to elude with 2 dice, very similar to the Camouflage one for the Druid. And Exhaust, after you make a die roll, you get to re-roll it. That's preparation. Okay. And again, they have a whole set of abilities that you can continue to acquire later. We will acquire more later as we go through the game. So this is the Monk. He's about standard as far as his secrecy and oops, got to get a better the right token for this, and his grace. So anyway, I'll fix that token before we start playing. The base abilities I took for him are Chi Burst. I think that one's pretty required. Exhaust to use a Chi effect from one of your powers. Now the Monk has Chi effects on all of his powers, and you can exhaust that to use the extra power that goes along with the ability. So Patience, you get to fight with 3 dice if the Doom track, which I'll get to, is odd, or 1 if it's even. And in Clarity, you get to add 1 to your highest die when searching. That's always good. And you see those Chi bonuses after there. Use after a search to choose the results from another location. So in other words, if you're in a place that only gives you keys and you really want a treasure chest, you can, and you search and you succeed, then you can get a treasure chest instead. Give you an example. Or a weapons cache, which allows you to get another ability. Okay, as above, so you get to fight with the 3 dice, but you add 1 to your highest die, so that's pretty effective on that one. Basically, that's the Monk. He's going to be our kind of our fighter for the game. Then we have the Wayfarer. I haven't played with either, actually, most of these characters. The only one I played with regularly was the Druid, so this will be interesting. But I picked In the Wind, so I get to elude with 3 dice if there are no other heroes at my location, which typically, with the way that you have to move around the board, you don't group up too often because unless there's a ability that affects that. Tither and Yawn, it's an action, meaning I have to actually use it. Ignore Blight's effect for the rest of your turn. Refresh your powers and travel. So then that means, yeah, he's got some interesting and unique abilities too. He's going to be a little difficult to play because I haven't played with him before, and he's different. So here from the blue you get a bonus. You get to activate after traveling, and the activation is deactivate before a fight roll for plus 2 dice. So you gain bonuses for running around the board, essentially, is what he gives you. He's the Wayfarer. He travels around. Now keep in mind that there are additional cards that they can get with additional abilities as the game progresses, and we'll go over that. The turnarounds are extremely simple, and I'll pull out another character card and show you what that looks like, because they're all on the back. Of course I have to get one. Let's see where the rest of them go. Here we go. Okay, so a turn. The hero's turn is the heroes go first. So they start. They lose the secrecy. It tells you right there that if you lose secrecy, if the necromancer's present, or if you're carrying a holy relic. The holy relics are what you need to collect and to gain the ability to fight the hero. To collect the holy relics, you need to gather keys, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So the event phase, a character does not draw an event if they're in the monastery. The monastery is a safe place. And then they can perform an action. Now that action could be move, and basically the action's on the other side. Travel, move, and if you do move to a new location, you gain more secrecy because you're eluding the enemy. You can hide, which refreshes your powers and allows you to gain 1 secrecy, but you don't do anything, basically, you just hide. you can attack and fight a blight. Now, I'll tell you how the blights work in a little bit. And when you try to destroy it, you do lose a secrecy. You can also fight the necromancer. You can search each location. You can search for different things that's marked on the board. You can pray at the monastery, retrieve a holy relic if you have 3 keys and you're on a holy relic spot, and power. Any action effect from a power card. Okay, so that's basically how a turn rolls out. Then you go on to the necromancer's turn, which is he basically moves. If he can't find somebody, he's going to move along a die roll path and drop blights as he goes. And blights have a wide variety of effects. So that said, let's move to the board, and I'll show you a little bit about how that part works. Here are our heroes. They're at a location called the monastery. The monastery can't be searched, and it's a safe place. We don't draw event cards as we move about, but and you can see these paths that the players will move on to the various locations. So, for instance, if I take the scholar here and move him down to the forest, that's an action. That's his whole turn, by the way. He'll move. And then, of course, well, before that, he will draw an event card. So he'll draw that and then take his action. So that's what a turn would look like. And then, of course, you see that there's a relic. That's what this box is a relic. And you see that it's got 3 keyholes on there. You need 3 keys to be able to open that box. And then in the forest there, when you do a search, and you can see that the search difficulty is 4, meaning you have to roll a 4 or better on a 6-sided die. You can pick up a key that would open one of the boxes, or you can draw a treasure chest, which is going to have some kind of treasure on it. And I'll show you those as we play the game. I'm not going to go over them now, but we'll just go along as we play. Then you see the village here. Village also has a lower search difficulty, but it only has treasure in it. Down here, you got 2 keys for searching in the ruins. You can search for keys. The swamp, yeah, you can. Oh gosh, I gotta remember how that works. Anyway, you got a couple different search items up there in the swamp. Those are special items that you can get, and I'll go over what those are in a moment. And then up here, you get a weapon cache or a chest. The weapon cache up in the castle is difficulty of 2. You can see right there. No, I'm sorry, and a satchel. But if you look on the back of the book, it kind of tells you what these things are. So I'm going to back it up a moment and show you what that is. This is the back of the book. So it shows you what the basic blights do, but that's not what we're interested in right now. So here's the items. A waystone, you can just discard it to return instantly, or discard during your turn to instantly move to any location again. Secrecy, that's something that can be found in the swamp, along with bottled magic. Where's it? Vanishing dust. Yeah, it's bottled magic, which you can discard after a fight roll to add 3 to the dice. Then you also have a treasure chest, which you can discard at any time when you have a treasure chest in your inventory to get a new power card. And then you can see there's other search results down here. A supply cache, draw 2 power cards and keep 1. Keep in mind you draw the rest of your power cards at random. It also tells you what the Holy Relic does and what the Necromancer turn looks like. So the first thing we do on the Necromancer's turn is we increase, which I got to get the counter out for that as well. We're going to increase the darkness track here. And when it reaches certain thresholds, things are going to get nastier for us. So you can see here where it says 10 plus, create 2 blights at the Necromancer's location. So, and it gets worse and worse as we go. We need to try to defeat that Necromancer well before we get to too high level on this track. Similar to what you saw with the Shadow track except that was a countdown, the Shadow track in a Touch of Evil. So that's basically how it works. Now I'm going to show you what a blight looks like, and I'll show you a couple different kinds. Let's just take corruption here. So that's not a good starting one to show you, but let's take a skeleton. Okay, so let's say this skeleton here. Here's a skeleton. Let's say he's here, and I'll probably play these with the backup. I'll show you the picture on them, but I'll probably play them with the backup so you can see what they do. When you move there, you have to encounter that blight because it has an ability. In this case, you have to fight it or you lose a grace. And that's going to be, you can either fight or elude the skeleton. That's the 4 with the shield or the 4 with the elude symbol on it. And if you fail in either case, you take grace damage. The 5 there with the wound, it means that on your action, if you're already there, you can attack the blight and destroy it. So those are how that's how a monster blight works. Basically, all blights have the same thing where if you attack them, you destroy them. Let me see, find a good one that has some kind of ability. There we go. Here's another one. So let's say you move into this spot here, and you have the taint. Basically, to destroy it, you need a 5+, and if you fail, you lose a grace. And you can't gain any grace while this taint is present in that location. So if you want to do that action that I told you about, which is hide, which would refresh your power and gain you, no, that's secrecy. Well, anyway, if you pray, sorry, you can only pray at the monastery. So there are ways to, trust me, there are ways to get grace back as well. But if you, when you're there, you can't do that. You can't gain any through an ability or anything. That's another type of blight. And again, there's many different types. They all have different effects. They're all pretty basic, so you don't have to go looking them up to use them. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and defeat the necromancer. Now, to defeat the necromancer, you have to have relics to do that. And once defeated, you win the game. If at any time this track is overrun or it goes up to the end, you lose. There's a couple losing conditions, a couple winning conditions, but we'll go through that as we play the game. So when the necromancer moves around the board, we're going to start off by populating the board with blights as well. But when the necromancer moves around the board, he is going to drop a blight in that location. Now, how do you determine that? So you have these map cards over here, and like on your, if you go to the necromancer moves to a location, you're going to draw a map card, and you're going to see where he is. So let's say the necromancer is in the mountains. He's going to on this map card shows he's going to drop a desecration token down, which is a different kind of blight. It looks like this. You can see there's the desecration blight, and if I flip it over, it does that. So desecrations are really bad. It needs a 4 to defeat or to destroy when you're there, but it adds 1 to the Doom track, or whatever I think it's called, the Darkness track. Sorry, get it mixed up with other games. Every round, so that means your track could be going up 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many blights there are. There's 2 blights available in the game, and if you draw a map card with a new blight, then one of the blights will move. So that's how those cards work, and I'll shuffle that one back in. Again, also for treasures, if you're in a location where you're drawing a treasure, for example, there might be some cards that not as a result of a search, but other things have a treasure in them. That's what you get. It shows you there on the side. So everything from a forgotten shrine to a key to an epiphany to those are pretty rare, the epiphanies, to treasure chests where you can gain new abilities. So now, the other thing that's going to happen, you can also end up with artifacts, but we'll get into some of those things as we play and just roll along with them. There are also event cards. Event cards are pivotal as well. You're going to draw one on each of your turns, and I'll give you an example of what one of those looks like. So here we have an event card that says Vile Messenger. You have to fight him. He's got a 4. You cannot evade him, and if you fail, the Doom track goes up 1. Pretty straightforward. That is the event that you have to encounter as the character, and there's all kinds of different ones. And some of those events will launch quests, and quests will appear around the board. Now, quests have their own stuff here, and here's a Trap Children quest. That hourglass marker right there, we're going to put hourglass tokens on there each turn that it stays out there, and if it ever reaches that or surpasses it, it expires. So, and we're also going to put progress tokens. You see this one requires 2. So it's got some flavor text, tells you a little story. I won't read it now because we'll read those during the game. So, and then it requires an action. So you have to elude versus a 4, and each success that you have in your elude gives you 1 completion marker. So you get to advance the quest, and when it's completed, you get to do something. So in this case, you get to draw as a search result. Or draw a search result. So again, like I showed you before, if we were in a location, we would draw a map card and find out what we got during that search. So that's going to be what a quest looks like. There's also very powerful artifact items that you can get throughout the game. I'm not going to go over how you get them right now, but this is an example of one. The wind flute, when a blight whose effects is to force a combat is created at your location, destroy it. Pretty good. So, all kinds of abilities from the artifacts as well. When I first got the base game, I had a lot of fun with it, but it had some limitations because there was so much you could do. And that didn't mean it was any less fun. Sometimes less is more, and in this case it was pretty good. But the expansions with the quests, especially the quests add a lot to the game. And of course, it's always fun to have new and different characters. Those things add quite a bit to this game, making it, I would have to say, one of my favorite cooperative games overall. It's relatively fast. You'll see the turns go fast. So in this case, like I said, you're always going to play with 4 characters, no matter how many players you have, 1 to 4. And in this case, I talked to my son, my 10-year-old son, and he might join me and play 2 of the characters as well. We'll see. But if he does or doesn't, either way, we're going to play through this. This is not a particularly lengthy game either, so this playthrough will go pretty quickly. I might do 1 or 2 turns at a time, and this explanation video is probably going to be the longest of them. So anyway, when we come back, after I get this posted and let y'all take a look at it, we're going to start with our character turn. We'll start with the druid. And oh, one more thing during the turns. You have these tokens, just because you might be playing with just one player like myself. You have these, or there's also, you don't have to play in any given order. So maybe I want to do the druid now, but I want to do the wayfarer, not the monk next. There's no order of play. So just when you have taken your turn, you just flip this over to knight, meaning that you're done. It's a nice little mechanic there to keeps things nice and easy to manage from a player standpoint. So basically, each one of these guys is going to have one of these sun markers on it. I think that's all I need to explain for now. Like I said, there's going to be a lot going on in the game, and we'll get to it as we go. But get ready, because we're going to be playing Darkest Night.